The Mandela effect got its name because there was a very large segment of the population that believed that Nelson Mandela died decades earlier. Suddenly, his recent death was announced. Billions of people are interested in this topic, that memory isn't jiving up with reality.
Yes, it's like the Twilight Zone. Not everything is what you think it is.
In the car in which John F. Kennedy was assassinated, there were 6 passengers. I've watched the videos over and over. There is no way in my mind you could tell me there were 6 people in that car.
Things that people know so well just be twisted just enough to get people to question whether or not what they remembered was real. Fundamental reality as we know it can change. This lines up with sciences of today. CERN is a collider where they're smashing particles. Stephen Hawking, he warned people about CERN, very adamant that this was not something that we should be doing. We could be in a simulation. We don't know who is in charge. It could be aliens. It could be angels or demons, some people say. It could be just artificial intelligence.
The nightmare scenarios that could stem from that are just limitless.
Now, a growing number of people want to know if history is being edited.
Hello, my friends. Thank you for pressing play, for spending a little time with me, a little quality time in the quantum world, because who knows what's real anymore? Who knows what's real? I have something very, I'm incredibly excited to share with you. You know that Mandela Effect movie that I did back in the day? Everybody asked about it. You all went out and you saw it. Well, guess what? Guess what? After the shows that I've been doing recently, all of a sudden, it's free on Tubi. And like everybody's hitting me up and everybody's going crazy over this. Now, what's weirder still is that just like last week, out of the blue, I felt like I needed to get in touch with my buddy Bob Kiviat.
Something inexplicable is happening where almost half the population say they remember things from the past being different or changed.
You know him from Alien Autopsy, the man, the myth, the legend. Say hi, Bob.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Man, listen, I'm really fired up to have you here. You know, for people that don't know, I was a fan of his before I ever met him, and he became like a fan of mine. And there are a couple of weird things happening in the Mandela Effect world, if you will. I don't know if you know this, Bob. There's an AI called Grok, and today I got into a little back and forth because Grok, all of a sudden out of the blue, was talking about Mandela Effect.
Really?
And now here you are. And for those that don't know who you are, can you do me a favor? Can you just give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back?
Well, basically, if an introduction is necessary, I've produced a lot of primetime broadcast shows about UFOs, and Alien Autopsy was a huge show of mine, which is coming back. It was a show on Fox Network years ago called Alien Autopsy: Fact or Fiction. It was about a film that someone had presented as maybe being a real alien being recovered from the Roswell crash in 1947, the famous story of that case. And then it became just, to me, a documentary. A film had been found, sort of like you'd find an old painting, an old film. Is it real? Is it not? Is it authentic? Let's bring in the experts, analyze it like a piece of, material. And we did that, and it was a documentary. Well, it became a huge sensation around the world because a lot of people believed it was a real autopsy of an alien. We never knew for sure what it was. Years later, about 3 years later, we did another show for the Fox Network called World's Greatest Hoaxes, Secrets Finally Revealed, where we showed that probably was not real, but it was based on some things that had been seen, we think. So it had a story beyond just whether it was real or not. Now it turns out there's another series being created this year that will be on, knock wood as I say it, sometime in September. It'll be a documentary series about all that I was trying to uncover back then. But that led to a lot of specials I did for the Fox Network, Jacob, about are prophecies of the Bible true? Are miracles occurring around the world?
I mean, I think everybody that's in my audience probably knows who you are. I mean, my goodness,
a lot of these shows about ghosts and whatever, but always about the evidence. And that was always what led me to the Mandela effect, because it's about evidence. It's not about talking heads. There's a movie right now out the last couple of days at some, conference, film festival in Texas.
Okay.
It's like 38 people talking about what the alleged UFO cover-up is with the government. Not one piece of evidence of any kind, nothing, right. Just a bunch of talking heads. And so the major Hollywood Reporter, Daily Variety, all these papers are writing, there's nothing there. Because if you don't have the evidence, who cares what you're saying? Anecdotal evidence is rarely important in a courtroom.
But it's important in the Mandela effect now, isn't it?
Well, yes. In the Mandela effect, that's a whole nother situation, because we don't have the physical evidence. If we can go under the bed and find a VHS tape from 1980 that we kept when we were kids, and we play it, and all of a sudden Darth Vader goes, "Luke, I am your father." What amazing evidence that would be.
Yeah, right.
Luke, I am your father.
Right.
We don't have that in the Mandela effect. We have what's really called, circumstantial evidence.
Residual evidence.
And that's...
We have a lot of that, Bob.
Residual evidence. Right,
yeah.
Residual evidence. But I think residual evidence is more like circumstantial, because a lot of people are saying it. We don't have the one piece of physical, but residue, I love the residue. To me, the residue is the key to the Mandela effect.
Well, now you made a whole movie about this.
The residue we focus on residue, Jacob.
I mean, is this something, first of all, before we get into this is a question I never even asked you, because I just took it I just believed that you would believe in this. I mean, do you think that there is such a thing as the Mandela effect?
Let's make it really clear. I think our movie, which you were a great part of, as you know, what you make clear in the movie, and I think we did together, is there is no doubt some of these examples show the world changed. Something happened. There was, at one time in a linear timeline, there was this Luke, I am your father scene, let's say, in the movie. Something happened in the quantum world, in the world of, let's say, dimensions. We don't know exactly, as you make very clear in our movie, but no doubt, so many people of that particular Mandela effect are shocked. Even
there's so many, there are
James
so many.
Earl Jones, the actor, remember the actor who plays the part in the movie, is certain, and we show two examples, that he remembered being Luke, I am your father. He talks about the script when he read it. He talks about how the storyline plays out.
Right.
And then again, he wasn't necessarily the actor, because it was like there was a whole suit and all kinds of special effects done, but he knew what that line was.
Changes which are just deeply ingrained in people.
The Snow White Mandela effect troubles me. Who does not remember the line, "Mirror, mirror on the wall"? She never said that. She says, "Magic mirror on the wall."
What you think it is? The logo for Volvo all of a sudden was a female symbol instead of just a circle.
I swear I remember Jiffy Peanut Butter, but now they're telling me, no, you don't. It was Jif.
Now look, there are many examples in our movie that are similar to that, but that one is so solid. But imagine, like with UFOs or something along those lines.
Yeah, and now UFOs are actually, they're actually saying they're real.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make, Jacob. No, right now you'll be seeing in my coverage this year, there's nothing new in UFOs. UFOs is an amazing mystery. What these people have done is they've tried to concoct a exaggerated version of the UFO story and throw back to Congress, even to the Congress, like old anecdotal stories, no real evidence at all.
Wait a minute, now, hang on a second. I remember all sorts of things happening where they said, yes, we have otherworldly craft.
These are people that are full. That's why the Mandela effect is so important to stay focused on. There's not a lot of people faking and playing games with this mystery. It is what it is. The UFO mystery is the opposite. The UFO mystery, since it became a thing in the 50s and the 40s, has become a cottage industry.
I'm so confused. I mean,
I'm going to make it clear that industry has gone through fits and starts throughout the years. The base evidence of UFOs is the video footage, which I've been bringing to bear into the culture for the last 25, 30 years. It's been a big part of my work. That UFO evidence, 50, 60, 70, 80 videos, let's say, maybe even new ones being shot in the last few years. When you put that together, that database, there is no doubt there's an amazing UFO mystery. These people we're talking about spent no time looking at that evidence.
All the stuff. So hang on a second. So all the stuff that went on at Congress, because they just did this just recently.
In our previous panel, we had Grush, and he had testified to say that some of these were interdimensional beings. Can you speak on that at all?
Ma'am, I'm not qualified, certainly as a scientist or otherwise, to speculate points of origin. I looked at everything from a scientific perspective. So if you look at, for example, instantaneous acceleration, which was one of the observables, before you start having structural failure, meaning that the airframe begins to disintegrate while you're flying, the vehicles we're talking about are performing in excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs.
So would it be safe to infer that they're living craft?
I'm not prepared at this point to state for the record.
Congress, I'm telling you right now.
No, but I'm saying they did. They did.
They had the hearings.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at.
The senators,
just so people understand that.
Yes, they had hearings.
They had hearings. But what you're saying is, so I can clarify, is that you're saying they're just kind of gaslighting us?
They're gaslighting the mystery and the culture. Exactly.
Why would they do that?
There's not a they. There's a small group of people. There's about 20 of them. And they have history in the gaming, in the faking of psychic phenomena.
Right.
Here's the key. They're tapping into government funding. That's their goal. The grift is funding.
So you're saying they're everybody's a grift. This is not
something. Everybody's a grift. You're never going to see one of those pilots, let's say.
Okay.
They saw pilots have been reported seeing UFOs for 50, 60, 70 years. There's famous cases. Mantell, famous case. This air pilot chased a UFO till his plane basically blew up.
Right.
Because he wanted to see what the UFO was. There's so many examples that are amazing examples of UFOs. That's right. UFOs. Now they have to call it UAPs.
Yeah, well,
why are they calling it UAP? To confuse everyone. So now, wait a minute. We're not talking necessarily about the UFO mystery.
Right.
Now we're talking about China,
aerial
Russia,
phenomenon,
other countries.
Right.
It's a nightmare. Right. And now why this has occurred.
You're getting so angry. I love it.
Well, you're going to see a new
worked up. Settle down, Bob.
There's a reason. The reason is the alien autopsy and the timing of my new documentary called, we think we're going to call it Ufodacy, like an odyssey, but a Ufodacy, is because it's really filled with a lot of truth. There's a lot of UFO truth. Unfortunately, these individuals and the New York Times.
That must get you angry.
The New York Times, they wrote an article about UFOs in 2017 that will go down as the worst researched article, maybe of any kind, ever on the pages of the New York Times, especially sneaking its way onto the front page. What happened was they released the article on a Friday night or something, 2017. Or a Saturday. It was an online article, and the article goes on online. And oh my God, New York Times writing about UFOs or UAPs, whatever. And the next thing you know, they stick it on the Sunday edition in a tiny little column.
Yeah.
They change the headline, and before you know it, all these grifters come along, former people dealing with government contracts, people that claim to have government connections. They all come around, and the next thing you know, they got Congress interested enough to have these hearings. These hearings produced not one piece of evidence. Any one of my TV specials on the Fox network
probably did better, right? Probably
has more evidence of UFOs than they have at the congressional hearing. So I called Senator Gillibrand's office in New York last week, and I wanted to let her know that there is an important change necessary. She brought it up a couple of months ago at the last hearing. She says, I'd like to see the evidence. I want to see the evidence for like last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I'm paraphrasing. She said, there's evidence. If you have the evidence out there, get in contact with us. She says this.
What freaks you out more? What freaks you out more? The idea that, you know, the Mandela effect's real, we could possibly be in a simulation, or they're aliens?
I think it definitely the latter. I think it freaks me out. I could accept aliens visiting the Earth. Yeah. I think they have. Right. I think we have enough evidence, and I'm not going to get into the debate now about whether you want to look at cave drawings or you want to look at UFO video. I think overall,
there's plenty of evidence.
There's kind of an understanding in our kind of soul level that we know we're sort of not alone, and we must have had some contact. We could just feel it. It's in our religions. God, you know, God's coming from the sky. Every religion calls it. The question is, can you write all that off? No, I don't think so. But when you talk about the Mandela effect, you're talking about things like, as you did beautifully in our movie, the simulation idea.
Right. Which just for the audience to know, I want to say this to them, because there is a lot of evidence that we could be. I mean, you know, from Nick Bostrom's article, from, you know, that it is a possibility. There was a scientist, I don't know if you knew about this, Bob.
I agree.
A scientist, they were just trying to prove, they got funding, talk about, you know, a grift, right? But they got funding to try to prove whether or not we are in, the way I always looked at it when it comes to simulation theory, so people don't get freaked out, is like, well, Jesus came into this world, he said, this is, you know, I'm not of this world. This is not my world. This is not my home. Okay, so that would basically be the thing. Like, we could be booted in somewhere. It doesn't matter, regardless of what it is. Really, this is not where we come from. Ironically, the grok that I was talking about, this is interesting, is the super powerful AI that is on X right now. And Grok and I had like a back and forth on the Mandela effect. It was very strange.
I want to hear about it. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened was, Grok, I'm saying he. It's the AI, the most powerful AI.
But you're calling it a he.
yeah, it's so funny. For those of you that don't know, the logo looks literally like a black hole, and Hawking and Herzog, they proposed the idea that we could be existing as information on the singularity of a black hole. So basically we'd be projected into reality. So simulation theory is not too far-fetched when you have all these big people. Nothing to get freaked out about, because once again, this is not our end place for those of you that, but that would explain the Mandela effect, would it not? I mean, right?
Well, I think when you get into the simulation theory as sort of a context with the Mandela effect, I kind of get, like, you can see it two ways. I see people that are trying to convince the world that the simulation is real by pointing to the Mandela effect. And then you have people pointing to the Mandela effect going, you see, the Mandela effect proves the simulation's real. So it goes, but the idea is, it not to confuse people again, but is there, as our movie kind of gets into, is there evidence that things changed from what they were before? And is the reason that maybe that there's a changing glitch, like a computer,
lag?
And they're changing. So tell us a little more. You know about this.
Well, you know, it's Grok's posted this a couple of days ago. The Mandela effect is a phenomenon, for those that don't know, where many people share false memories of events or details, like believing Nelson Mandela died in prison. Possible explanations include false memory, social suggestion, conflating Mandela with other figures like Steve Biko. No scientific evidence supports parallel universe theories. So what I did was I kind of reposted it and said, is this answer by Grok true? Or Grok, is it possible that we could actually be in a simulation where things or memories could be changed? And Grok responded right back. So you see, this is like a back and forth with me and Grok on X. That's at Jacob Israel 71 if you want. And basically goes on the Mandela effect explanation I gave, false memories, conflation, simulation, where basically goes on to tell me there's no way that this is a real thing. There's no way that this is true. I keep saying to Grok, I say, you know, well, why don't we pretend that it's true? why don't we, hypothetically speaking, and still was like so adverse to answering me. And then finally did. So I don't want to read all of this. You can find it on X. So Grok once again said, because I brought up examples where I witnessed a flip-flop with the Apollo 13. I talked about it in the film.
Right,
I witnessed it because I was covering it and I couldn't believe that it had been changed. And then one day, all of a sudden, I was watching these movie things and it changed back.
When we're presented with something that's almost otherworldly, we will retreat back to just acceptance.
If you build it, they will come.
So that was like that moment where I was like, oh my God, maybe this really is real, because I had that firsthand experience with it. So Grok says, Wired, top 10 movie misquotes often reflects popular memory, not reality, like Apollo 13's line being, Houston, we have a problem, in collective recall we've had in the film. Flip-flops like those you mentioned are likely memory distortion, amplified by discussions and media residual evidence, ? Usually misquotes in articles or parodies, not proof of anything. Like Grok was so adverse, and I said, you're fighting very hard against answering my hypothetical question, which is odd to me. You don't have to.
Jake, it's interesting, and not to cut you off, but I want to let you know that that's the kind of stuff we looked at during the movie we were making. And that's why we stayed so focused on things like Sex in the City, because we had video where multiple actors, the people giving awards, the way they were promoting it, unless we're nuts, everyone's saying sex in the city. They're not saying sex and. You can even see the way a mouth makes the sound.
Right.
And or in. There's a difference. So we ran these videos of everyone from Sarah Jessica Parker to the people on the actual show. We ran these through a simple thing like YouTube closed captioning or whatever.
Right.
And 95% of the time, it was sex in the city. So I would go to a courtroom, let's say, and I would go to a jury or a judge, and I would say, look, I don't care about all the other Mandela effects you're hearing about. I don't care. Let's deal with this one. One Mandela effect. I call Sarah Jessica Parker to the stand. Sarah, when you're at this award show, you're saying Sex in the City. A better example of the people on the talk show. You're saying about the movie Sex in the City. Sex in the City everywhere, New York everywhere. So the idea was we never were able to do that. I've got people actually contacting me and said, could you get those people to come on and talk about? Well, we were thinking about that. We were trying to get everyone from the Tom Hankses.
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't want to be a part of this film.
No, we were like, come on, just so we call up and they say no to us? I mean...
Well, they did performances. Tom Hanks did performances where he performed it the way we remember.
So we decided to pull what we had in the actual kind of cultural lexicon, and we got those videos to show people without having to ask them their opinion. Oh, are you going to tell us how to explain this? James Earl Jones, again, he already did it for us. He said it very clearly. So that we acquired that material and we showed the people. Now, look, there are people who will say, well, you haven't proven that it was Sex in the City at one time, but what more evidence do you need? You got people... You did a great job with David Letterman. We were amazed back in 2017.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll never forget when I brought someone into my office and I said to them, watch this. And they wait a minute. He wouldn't make a mistake like that. I said, exactly.
You would think, right? At the Oscars when it's up for Best Picture.
And he wouldn't do it. He did it very glibly. It was like, and the great, the writers write great lines like,
life is like a box of chocolates.
He wouldn't miss the was and is. It wouldn't be like that thing. It would be like very clearly stated. So in the end, I have to tell you, that's another great example. I would show a jury and say, do you think that? And then the one that really gets me crazy is interview with a vampire.
Well, it's like if you want to really boil it down to like nuts and bolts, you have people like James Gates, who was the scientific advisor to President Obama.
Right.
And he used mathematics to solve the equation of everything. He wanted to find what the root of everything was, and he found browser code for Google, you know. That's what he found at the very core using math. He found a browser code. And once again, you could be right though. They could be gaslighting people. In the grand scheme of things, this is something that I find fascinating.
You mean the UFO? You mean the UFO people gaslighting?
Well, right. You were saying
that was gaslighting. This is an actual planned grift by one particular guy tied to the government research of psychic phenomena years ago. Because there are people out there trying to make not only money, make names for themselves.
Right. I think you made a valid point when you said that, you know, this, just because they're doing it doesn't mean that it's truthful. And that's what I was saying about Gates, was that I don't know why he would, you know, tell the world with all the awards and everything else that he has that he found browser code at the very, you know, fabric of.
So what did he mean by that? By saying that, what's the implication?
The implication is, well, he said the implication being that I'm in the Matrix, and I'm cool with that because it was a great movie. But let me tell you what Grok wrote back. This is interesting because this is very powerful AI. I'm not dodging your hypothetical. Let's lean into it. If we're in a simulation and things change, it could be the programmers tweaking the code for efficiency, testing reactions, or fixing bugs. People might notice because their memory doesn't fully sync with the update, like a lag in a video game. The odds of a simulation are decent, Bostrom argues, but why changes happen? Could be the developers messing with us for kicks or running experiments. And then Grok thanked me because I said that Grok is a marvel. Thank you for your kind words. I'm here anytime you want to get weird. You know. Now this is right. This is an AI.
By the way, AI is another problem. I'm going to just say it like it is. I mean, when we're now relying on a basically an interactive computer program to research. I mean, even my kids. You've met my kids. They're endlessly looking at ChatGPT to tell them the future, the plans. Right. It's getting a little nuts.
Well, you know, what's interesting about quantum computing and what's going on now is they've created such powerful chips, and this one quantum computing chip, which is like, it did something in like a millisecond that took like 60,000 years. I may be exaggerating, but for like our most powerful computers. But the idea with AI is they compare it to a black hole because black hole sucks everything into it, right? Because it sucks all the mass into it. AI, if it became quantum, it would basically take all the data from everything and everything would be sucked into it like a black hole. Hence Grok being a black hole. And then what it could do is it could literally pick up from where our experience of reality left off and create multiple simulations where there's the real me now feels like it's the real me, but is in a simulation. That's science. Terrifying science.
Yeah, but I think, Jacob, at some point, though, we go from social media dominance with our systems and technology. Now we're going to an actual entity. You're calling it a he.
When you look at the big platforms like YouTube, TikTok, billions of people are interested in this topic.
It's like the Twilight Zone. Not everything is what you think it is.
I'd love everyone to understand how important you were to the movie and how much you brought the movie. So I'd love people to come back and see it on Tubi, even if you've already rented it. I mean, it's the kind of thing where you can really dig into the research. The more you see it, the more you see the examples we gave, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
I really want people to get to understand that it's on Tubi so that you can experience it without any concern about renting or purchasing it. It's like watching a TV show. So, and I have another show up there called Aliens on the Moon, The Truth Exposed, where we show evidence that NASA, yes, we went to the moon,
right?
Photographed areas of the moon that look like there are gigantic structures there.
You really think we went to the moon?
I too
really,
believe.
Really?
Anybody can go right now to the landing sites and see the video,
but nobody can actually go.
The landing,
they can't actually go because they forgot how to get there.
The imagery. I mean,
they can go to the Snapchats
landing sites, see the rover tracks.
Yeah, they show it to you.
We're way beyond did we go to the moon, with all due respect to people like Joe Rogan who changed his mind. Like, I finally believe we went to the moon. Yeah. Thank you. But anyway, there are interesting anomalies in some of the photographs.
I know. Who knows what's real? That's the best part of this whole thing with the Mandela
And is there
effect.
space? And is there a flat Earth? And
no, I could care less about all that. I mean, I just like talking about these things, and I do like the idea that we're in some kind of a simulation and being like Neo in the Matrix, and then God like sending a spirit here. It's the place of the dead, right? That's where we're supposed to be, supposedly, because in Adam all men died.
But it is pretty freaky to think of the general concept that we've made computers, and imagine how many years from now.
You think we discovered, this was the question, do you think we discovered AI, or do you think we created AI?
We've created it. We found ways now to double and triple and quadruple and whatever our technology and all that. That's all great. But the question is, did some other race before us get so?
Well, hang on a second. If we're in a simulation, then that means that the AI existed before us.
I like what Elon Musk says. Maybe the only thing I really like what he says in the world base is that I want to know where's the programmer. In other words, the first question I would ask,
the architect. Who's the architect?
What's outside of the simulation?
Well, you know me. I mean, I'm a man of faith. I know you're a man of faith. I believe 100% in God and and everything. And I know that this is all happening for a reason. And it doesn't really trouble me. I just I'm a writer, so I like looking into these things. By the way, do you have a book? I got a book. Everybody want to get a copy? Go to Amazon. It's The Calling. If you want to support the channel, that's the way to do it. I'm also going to have a link to any link you want to send me an email, I'll put in the description of the video, and the Tubi link will be there as well. It's free. I mean, it's like, in the timing of this blows my mind, because I feel like it's gonna take off on Tubi.
Well, it is already, and I want people are seeing it that are rediscovering it, but also people on TikTok and YouTube especially who have been really driving the Mandela effect. Please go check out the movie.
What's your next thing? You're excited about the alien?
The next thing I have I believe I deviated into the music world, and I have a documentary that looks into the K-pop girl groups, and it's really a very interesting talk. You wouldn't believe the issue about real and authenticity and what's real on stage versus fake and lip syncing and all. But after that comes the UFOdacy, which is this really my entire career in the UFO field all comes together. We put the fires out, the bullshit I was telling you about, but we talk about the true evidence, which truly is, I believe, proof of visitation of some kind. But not one last thing about this. The people are going to the government now. They're claiming the United States government has done an 80-year conspiracy, covered it up. People have taken this to their deathbed. There's a real deal with the aliens and the government and all. Come on. That's a
Galactic Federation, man. Come on, dude. Come on.
This
is the guy who's the head of the Space Force over there in Israel. Thank you for coming on the show, Bob. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me in your movie. I'm excited. I know you're going to do a little bit of a tour, I guess. You get some people knowing more about it. And if anybody wants to learn more, I got a whole Mandela Effect playlist. You can go there and you can just watch video after video after video. It's a fun topic. Something to talk about at the parties and the barbecues that I'm not usually invited to, Bob.
But it could be very serious too, though. I think there's a serious side, which, we get into the whole CERN thing and the idea of...
Yeah, it's very deep. And look,
particle collisions could be a very dangerous thing.
I know. Just creating all new realities, bumping over to another multiverse. Who knows? All right, listen, I love each and every one of you. I'll talk to you soon. Please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, go check out his links in the description below, and support the channel any way you can. And I love you all, and don't let freaky things freak you out, because God's good and's got you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Magic.
Make believe with me. Picture yourself happy and free, living your life the way you want it to be. No more worries, no fear, no trouble, only peace. Happy at work, at home, with family or alone, regardless of where imagine joy is all you know. Imagination is the ground where your future grows. Imagination is the key, you see. If you'd only believe, you'd receive what waits behind the door of infinite possibility. There is a desire in your heart. From this desire you must never part. See the end from the beginning. Picture